Walters is open until 2 a.m., making it a great spot to watch the NBA playoffs. Walters Sports Bar and Restaurant is located just across the street from Nationals Park.
There they go. Here it comes. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a fastball. Challenged him at 97 and blew it by him. It took 30 pitches, but Cade Cavalli survives the bottom of the first, keeping the Mets off the scoreboard.
Now a swing and a drive, deep left center field. This is way back, and this ball is gone. Goodbye! A grand slam for Brady House. His first in the big leagues, his fourth home run of the year. And the Nationals have cleaned it all up here in the top of the fourth inning. And it's now the Nationals 9 and the Mets 1. Cavalli rocks, kicks, delivers, swing and a miss. He struck him out with a changeup. That is strikeout number 10 for Cade Cavalli, matching his career high, second start in a row. He has reached double digits in strikeouts.
Super excited to be able to put the team in a position. The offense raked tonight. That was fun to watch, and just gave me some freedom to go attack the zone. So a lot of fun.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Citi Field, where the Nats just got a dominant win, a 14-2 win at the New York Mets on Wednesday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series. A game in which we had rain for much of the game, but never had a rain delay. This was a game in which the Nats scored 7 runs in the top of the fourth, and that was off the Nats in their 8-0 loss at the Mets on Tuesday night, allowing 7 runs in the bottom of the fourth. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 14-17, 11-7 on the road versus 3-10 at home. The Mets now are an MLB worst 10-20. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Window Nation's The More You Buy, The More You Save sale. Visit windownation.com to book a consultation and make sure that you tell Window Nation that the Nats Chat podcast sent you. Coming up later in the show, an update on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel, including intel on outfielder Dylan Cruz. So the Nats over their previous 5 games had totaled a mere 14 runs. We mentioned that on the last installment of the podcast. The Nats on Wednesday night scored 14 runs. The Nats in this game, excellent offensively. 14 runs, 15 hits, which were 2 home runs, 4 doubles, and 9 singles, 6 walks, 7 for 17 with runners in scoring position. Did strike out 15 times, but you know what? Strikeouts don't matter so much when you hit like the Nats hit in this game. But Mark, is it wrong to say that the biggest bright spot for the Nats in this game was their starting pitcher, Cade Cavalli, who was good for a second consecutive outing, 2 runs in 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, became the first Nats pitcher to generate at least 10 strikeouts in each of at least 2 consecutive regular season outings since Max Scherzer in July 2020. Not since Mad Max have we seen what Cade Cavalli just did. He had been struggling, but he, over his last 2 outings, has been really good.
I agree with you. I think Cade Cavalli is the story of the game, even though the Nationals scored 14 runs. We can get to all the offense, and there's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. But I think it's more important what Cade Cavalli did here, because to back up what he did in that last start against the Braves and essentially duplicate that in this outing, I think is a huge step forward for him. I actually asked Blake Butera before the game, at what point can you look at Cade and say, okay, this is now a legitimate thing. He's on a roll now. This is who he can be. And he kind of smiled and says, well, he's got to do it for more than a couple of times. He's got to sustain that, for several outings in a row, if not even for a month. So to see him go out and do that in this game, it's a great step in the right direction. He did that in spite of the fact that he threw 30 pitches in the first inning, had to get out of a bases loaded jam. He still found a way to go 6 innings, keep it under 100, to the 10 strikeouts, like you said. And here's my favorite stat of the night from him. The last 24 pitches he threw were strikes.
I did not know that. That's great to hear. That means I'm in the zone attacking.
Now, maybe there are times that you don't necessarily want that. You say that you're finding too much of the plate. But when you've got a double-digit lead, that's exactly what you want. He knew the situation. He was going right after them, and he was actually executing them to not just throw strikes, but to throw quality strikes and get outs. This was a really important start, I think, for Cade Cavalli.
So Cavalli, in his previous outing, the Nats 7-2 loss to the Atlanta Braves at Nationals Park last Thursday afternoon, April 23rd. 2 runs, 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, no walks. And now we have what he did on Wednesday night. Again, 2 runs, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. He gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 6 singles. He issued 2 walks and a wild pitch. He put some guys on base. But like Mark said, Cavalli pounded the zone. 97 pitches, 69 strikes, just 28 balls, and 30 of the 97 pitches came in that first inning. Final 5 innings, just 67 pitches. It's so funny how this game played out. The bottom of the first was like that typical laborious sky-high pitch inning from Cavalli that has driven us nuts so many times over his starts at the major league level. I mean, he gave up a double. He issued 2 walks, 30 pitches. You say, oh, good Lord, like, what are we going to get from Cavalli in this game? But he ended up being so much better and so much more pitch efficient as the game went on. The 2 runs that he allowed, bottom of the third, gave up a run, gave up a one-out. First pitch, opposite field solo homer by our good friend Juan Soto to left center to cut the Nats lead to 2-1. Bottom of the 5th, allowed a run on 3 consecutive singles to begin that half inning. But bottom line, 2 runs, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. You look at Cavalli now in this regular season, 7 games, all starts. ERA of 3.82, whip of 1.66. He is lucky to have an ERA under 4 with a whip that high. And when we talk about, like, where is Cavalli at in his development, he's got to stop putting so many guys on base. But what also is high? His strikeouts per 9 innings, 11.15. 38 strikeouts in 30 2/3 innings. You've said that Cavalli is the best stuff of any Nats pitcher since Steven Strasburg in terms of guys who this team has brought up from the minors. And we are seeing that stuff play out in fine fashion here. 11.15 strikeouts per 9 innings now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you're seeing from him is he's not necessarily going out there trying to strike hitters out. There's a few situations. He mentioned that one in the first inning as the base is loaded. He wants to get out of it. Okay, I could really use a strikeout here. But otherwise, it's kind of a natural occurrence from being ahead in the count, having the good stuff and the ability to throw whatever he wants in any count. And that leads to all the swings and misses. So I don't think he's going out there saying, I'm trying to strike out 10 guys tonight. I think it is the end result of all the other good things that he is doing. He has that ability. Like we said, I know Mackenzie Gore was a high strikeout pitcher, but I think Cavalli's arsenal is a little more impressive. He maintained his velocity in this one, was still 97, I think maybe even 98 there towards the end of his start. So I think that was, really good for him. I mentioned bouncing back from that first inning. We've seen this from him where he has that long inning and that kind of builds on itself and you see more of those. And the next thing you know, he can't get out of, say, the 4th with the pitch count too high. And what he did in this one that was different is he comes right back with 10 pitches in a 1-2-3 bottom of the 2nd. And that included back-to-back strikeouts. So a 10 pitch inning with 2 strikeouts is about as good as it gets. And that kind of reset the whole outing for him where now he was out in front. Obviously, the team was playing with a lead for a lot of that time, and it just allowed him to go out and attack them and get quick outs. Yes, some base runners, but I think they can live with that. Again, he needs to do this over a longer stretch before you make any real declarations. But after having some concerns there maybe a couple of weeks ago is Cade Cavalli really who he's supposed to be or not? What we've seen these last 2 starts is who Cade Cavalli is supposed to be.
What do you think is key for him lessening how many guys he is putting on base? Because you could look at this and say it's not sustainable to keep having an ERA under 4 with a whip as high as it is. What do you think he needs to do to get that whip to be lower?
I think it's quality strikes. He's always been a strike thrower. I know there were a few starts earlier in the year that the walk count was high and strike to ball ratio wasn't so good. And he knew that's not who he is. He's always been a strike thrower. So then I think that next step and what you saw, I think for the most part in these last 2 starts, is it's not just about throwing strikes, but then throwing quality strikes. And I think that's where he can now maybe take the next step, if you will. And I think if you're the Nationals and if you're Cade Cavalli, you'd much rather him give up hits than walks. And I think he's been a lot better at that. And now once he maybe gets over the walk issue, you start focusing on really pinpoint command and not giving up the hits. He may, be a guy that he may not be Max Scherzer in that when he's on, he's just completely overwhelming. I think his fastball is kind of hittable. It doesn't move a lot. It's kind of flat. I think that's probably one of the reasons that he gives up the hits that he does. But when he gets ahead in the count and he avoids contact, at least early in the count, then he can go to the curveball, the changeup, the other stuff that he throws, and that leads to the strikeout. So let's remind ourselves, and Blake Buchera keeps saying it, he's only made, 16, 17 starts in the major leagues at this point. He's very much an unfinished product. I know he's older. I know he's been around for a while. We've been talking about him for years now, but he is still learning how to pitch at the big league level. And so I think you take the good things that he's doing and absolutely run with that and believe that he can continue to grow and start to do this kind of thing more regularly, and maybe don't worry as much about the negative blips on even in these quality starts.
And how about Nats starting pitching lately? For the last 6 games, good starting pitching. I mentioned the 2 outings for Cade Cavalli. Don't forget Jake Irvin, 6-3, 10-inning win at the Chicago White Sox this past Saturday. 5 2/3 scoreless innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks. Foster Griffin, 2-1, 10-inning win at the White Sox this past Sunday afternoon. 7 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts. Also for the Nats, in terms of pitching in this win at the Mets on Wednesday night, good relief pitching. 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 shutout innings. Cianel Perez, a perfect bottom of the 7th. Paxton Schultz, scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up back-to-back one-out singles. P.J. Poulin, a perfect bottom of the 9th. Any surprise that Blake Buchera used 3 different relievers in a blowout win like this, or did these guys just need the work?
Probably needed the work. Yeah, I was the only one I was really surprised at was Poulin. I thought maybe he goes with Schultz for 2 innings because we were thinking perhaps Poulin could open for Miles Mikolas in the series finale on Thursday. But, when I asked Buchera the previous day about did he consider using an opener for Zach Littell, he said not really. And he cited the Mets lineup being a little more balanced than a lot of teams are. Yes, Soto is the big lefty hitter, but they've got other good right-handed hitters and switch hitters. And so it's not as heavy with lefties at the top. And so I think he felt like using a lefty opener didn't necessarily match up the proper way with this particular Mets lineup. So maybe that's one reason why he went ahead and used Poulin in Wednesday's game in the 9th inning, which you never know because they always seem to change their mind the last minute. But it sure feels like at this point that Miles Mikolas is going to be on the mound for the bottom of the 1st inning on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's only been P.J. Poulin used as an opener by the Nats. You wonder if there's another reliever who Blake Buchera and Paul Taboni have in mind to serve as opener, or maybe, just maybe, Miles Mikolas, a starting pitcher, actually makes the start in this latest outing coming up for him on Thursday afternoon. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation's The More You Buy, The More You Save sale. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Line drive left side, base hit to left field. Thomas rounds third. He's heading to the plate. He'll score standing up without a throw as Seaver King delivers a 2-out RBI single and Harrisburg.
Well, happy spring. Window Nation is ready for spring, and Window Nation wants Nats Chat podcast listeners to know that there's no better time to upgrade your home with great Window Nation windows than right now, as Window Nation is offering to Nats Chat podcast listeners the More You Buy, The More You Save sale. Save up to 50%. Get your windows with 0% interest for 5 years. During uncertain times, one of the best investments that you can make is investing in your home. So visit windownation.com now to book a consultation and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you. That's windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend. The big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
Pitch is hit in the air to deep left center field for Mead. Way back goes the left fielder Slater to the warning track at the wall, looking up, and it's gone. It just clears the 370 mark, a home run for Curtis Mead. That's his 4th of the season and his 4th hit of the night. The Nationals add the extra point. It's 14-2.
So the Nats offense in this game was terrific. The Nats ripped the Mets starting pitcher David Peterson. He officially allowed 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Brady House hit a grand slam. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 1 for 5 with a grand slam and a walk. He and the Nats 7-run fourth had a 2-out grand slam to left center to put the Nats up 9-1. James Wood, he is the Nats starting DH and number 1 batter, 2 for 5 with a 2-run double, a single, and a bases loaded walk. The bases loaded walk came in the 7-run fourth. Wood was down in the count 0-2, ended up working a 2-out bases loaded walk to put the Nats up 4-1, and then Wood in the Nats 3-run 7th had a 1-out 2-run double to the right center field gap to give the Nats a 12-2 lead. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, 3 for 4, 2 RBI singles, another single, and a walk. Curtis Mead got on base 5 times. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 4 for 5 with a solo homer, a double, 2 singles, and a bases loaded hit by pitch. You never know with these Nats lineups with the new process who the number 2 batter will be. But it seems like so often this season so far, whoever the number 2 batter has been has come through. Curtis Mead coming through in this game, continues to come through in his limited playing opportunities here so far. But with the Brady House grand slam, it has been a rough last few weeks for House. He was doing so well. His numbers have come tumbling down to where they now are not good. Like if you just look at his bottom line slash line, he's not having a good season. So to see him hit that grand slam, that was very nice to see.
He needed that one. There was a point, I think, after the first at-bats by both of these guys in this game. Jacob Young actually had a higher OPS for the season than Brady House by 1 point. That tells you how far Brady has fallen since that excellent start. And then I wrote a nice article about him and his whole new approach and plate discipline, and he completely fell apart after that. So I'm sorry. I'll take the L on that one. What he had been doing, I think, a lot is he was taking a lot of strikes over the plate, some swinging at pitches out of the zone, but it felt like he was almost too patient and taking good pitches over the plate. Well, in that at-bat, he's got bases loaded. It's an 0-1 pitch, and it was over the plate. And he absolutely destroyed it. And so good for him for recognizing it and then doing damage to it. It's only the 2nd grand slam of his professional career. He hit one very early on when he was still in, I think, West Palm Beach after getting drafted. So before he even made it to affiliated ball after that. So this was his first one, certainly at the big league level. He needed it. It felt good. And what that did was it really put the definitive stamp on this game. They were putting the pressure on David Peterson throughout. They didn't fully convert. Peterson was out of the game at that point. It's Manaea has come in. That one big swing from him, I think, kind of solidified it and made sure that this was going to be a laugher of a game instead of one of those you say, well, they're having a good night, but boy, they're leaving a lot of runners out there. They could have done a lot more. David Peterson had owned this team. Last year, he threw 17 innings against them, gave up 1 run. And in this game, they scored 7 runs off him. I know he's been struggling, so maybe that's part of it, but it's nice to see the Nationals lineup, including a good number of hitters who have seen him before, have a lot more success this time around against David Peterson than they did previously.
I had to laugh at this. I was looking at this. So there are multiple outlets from which you can get MLB payroll information. I think probably the best one is Cots Baseball Contracts, which is affiliated with Baseball Prospectus. So if you go by the data on Cots Baseball Contracts, The Nats and Mets have the following projected year-end 40-man payrolls. Nats, $95.1 million. Mets, $362.6 million. And yet, we not only have the Nats with a better record than the Mets, we have the Nats number 2 in MLB in runs at 170. We have the Mets number 29 out of 30 MLB teams in runs, 102. And I'm not sure what's more shocking, that the Nats offense is this good or that the Mets offense is this bad. Because if you're really breaking down why are the Mets so bad so far, a lot of it is the offense. The Mets pitching actually hasn't been that bad. Certainly wasn't good on Wednesday night, but overall hasn't been that bad. The offense has been really bad. And contrasting that is this Nats offense, which just has been awesome.
I agree with you. I'm not sure which of those is more shocking. I think the other question then is which of those is more likely to be sustainable the rest of the year. I don't feel like either one is likely to finish in that same position, but I think there's maybe a better chance that the Nats finish, top 5 in the majors in runs scored than there is of the Mets finishing in the bottom 5. I find it hard to believe that could continue. Now, they've dealt with some injuries. Soto was hurt for a while. Lindor is out right now. They're also really missing a guy named Pete Alonso, who I think a lot of people around here wish they had gone above and beyond to try to keep instead of letting him go to Baltimore, both on the field and in the clubhouse. I think that loss has been very significant for them, as well as Brandon Nimmo, a guy who had been such a key stalwart for them for several years now. I still believe that this Mets team is going to go on a run at some point just because it's the Mets way. Everyone around here is ready to call the season off. They're ready to fire Carlos Mendoza. Maybe it'll happen. I just have a hard time believing that their season could be over before May 1st. I'm not saying they're going to come all the way back and make it to the playoffs or anything like that, but just the way the Mets usually operate, they're going to go on one of these runs where they win 13 out of 15 and everybody's excited again and everything's going to be great. And then they collapse for good later on down the road. That's my prediction of how this year is going to play out here in Flushing.
That is a lot of times how things do go for the Mets. It's funny. Pete Alonso is not doing especially well with the Baltimore Orioles, at least so far, though that clearly could change. And, with the Nimmo thing, there are all kinds of reports and rumors about why Brandon Nimmo is no longer with the Mets. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, and see what comes up. And that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, the Mets are not in a good place at all. And, this Nats offense, we said it, right? Last 5 games prior to Wednesday night, just 14 runs. Is the carriage turning back into a pumpkin? Well, Wednesday night, right back to where things had been prior to that 5-game stretch. And I just think this is going to be so interesting. Like, does this offense continue to be so good or at least, above average? Like, I don't think we're expecting it to be top 5 throughout the year, but can the Nats finish in the upper half of MLB in terms of runs, in terms of team OPS, however you want to quantify offense? Like, how realistic is that?
I don't know. It's a great question. I think the reasons that you could say maybe it could be is that they do this a lot of times on nights when it's not just like James Wood and C.J. Abrams. But if you get Brady House producing, if you get Curtis Mead producing, Dalen Lyle has kind of been quiet. He got a little bit of a run there, but he hasn't done a whole lot since then. Look at the lineup they fielded for this game. Wood, Mead, House, Abrams, Young, Lyle, Weimer, Nunez, Ruiz. There are some weak links in that lineup, and they still put up 14 runs. So I do think there's a whole lot of potential there because they're able to score runs even when not everybody's doing a lot for them. Of course, Wood and Abrams are kind of key to it all, but it doesn't just have to be them. So I want to believe that this can be like you said, like at least an average, if not above average lineup when it's all said and done. We don't know who else may be coming along the way to help them out, but they've done this with virtually no production from their catchers. They're not getting a whole lot out of second base in Nunez, not getting a whole lot out in center field from Jacob Young. That's pretty amazing that they've done that with those kind of weak links still in this lineup.
And if the starting pitching is starting to come around at least somewhat, Cavalli better lately, Jake Irvin has shown some signs of being better, Foster Griffin has been the best pitcher on the staff so far. Look, Miles Mikolas, Zach Littell, you hold your breath, but I mean, if you believe that there is something still there in at least Littell to where he'll be better, I think there's some hope even with the pitching. Now, I don't know that the pitching ever becomes a true strength, but again, it doesn't have to be great. It just can't be as bad as it has been so far. Can it just be better? Can it be, passable? Can it be decent? And at least lately, the starting pitching has been better than decent. The starting pitching has been good lately.
Yeah, I think those three guys, that's key. Griffin looks like this is who he can be now. Cavalli, obviously the last two starts really stand out as like frontline big league starter. Irvin has been quietly encouraging the last several times out. It's the two veterans. And I think we both know that they're not part of the long-term plan. So I think really the questions there are either number one, can they turn it around? Can at least one of them turn it around enough to like give them a chance? And that's probably Littell more likely than Mikolas. But then number two is how far does the organization take both those guys before they're willing to make a change? We talked to Blake Butera pregame again about Littell and kind of having had a full night to think about it and go over things about him. What are his thoughts and does he think there's a need to make any kind of changes there? And he was pretty adamant that Littell is not leaving the rotation, that this is not a case that they think they need to do that. They understand it's not as simple as him having signed late, but they also want to look at what he's done over the last 2 or 3 years and give that some weight over what he's done for 5 starts here. So there is some more rope for him. It's not going to be unlimited, but there is rope for him. In Mikolas's case, as we've seen, they've gone out of their way to try to minimize what he does. So I think that's the one that they're less wedded to. But if you were thinking that maybe the Littell start the other night might like signal a change in direction for them, it does not appear that's in the cards at least anytime soon.
Game 3 for the Nats at the Mets Thursday afternoon at 1:10. Miles Mikolas will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Window Nation's The More You Buy, The More You Save sale. Visit windownation.com to book a consultation. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast. And right now, we leave you with a special treat, an update on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel.
1-0 pitch. Cruz slices one into right. Campbell comes racing in. That drops fair, a base hit, and then it skips by him and rolls into the corner. Franklin's being waved around third by Mario Lasone. The throw to the plate instead will be relayed to third, but it's late on Cruz. 10-1 Red Wings as Cruz plopped one down the right field line that then rolled by Campbell and got into the corner. Time for a Rochester Red Wings update, and as of right now, the Red Wings have a 14-14 record on the season. Outfielder Dylan Cruz went 2 for 4 on Tuesday with a triple. That comes after he went 1 for 23 in his previous series at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. For the season, Cruz is hitting .234 with a .342 on base percentage, 3 doubles and 2 home runs for Dylan Cruz. The hottest hitter for the Red Wings has been Yo-Yo Morales, who's been pretty much splitting time between third base and first base. Over his last 14 games, he's hitting .440 with 3 doubles and 3 home runs. For the season, he's batting .333. That's just outside the top 10 in the International League. He leads the team with 4 home runs and also a .916 OPS. Outfielder Andrew Pinckney has also been hot of late. Over his last 13 games, he's hitting .354 with 4 doubles, a triple, and a home run. For the season, Pinckney's batting .284 with a .361 on base percentage and an OPS of almost .850. Christian Franklin, another outfielder, continues to get on base at a good clip. He leads the team with 19 walks and his on-base percentage of an even at .400, ranks second on the team behind Yo-Yo Morales. Catcher Harry Ford, who was traded from the Mariners for Jose A. Ferrer, continues to struggle at the plate. He's hitting .189 at the moment with no home runs yet. On the pitching side of things, Andre Laura turned in a phenomenal start last week in Scranton Wilkes-Barre against a very good hitting team. He went 7 innings on Friday night, allowed no runs on 2 hits, didn't walk anybody, and struck out 9 while throwing only 81 pitches. And by virtue of that tremendous start, Lara
was named the International League Pitcher of the Week. And Luis Perales, who was acquired from the Red Sox in the offseason in exchange for prospect Jake Bennett, is 0-3 right now with a 4.91 ERA. He's made 5 starts, though he's only pitched 14 2/3 innings so far. He throws hard. His fastball is averaged just under 99 miles an hour, and he has thrown 12 pitches already this season at an even 100 miles an hour or harder. This is Josh Whetzel with this Rochester Red Wings update.
2-2 pitch. Pinckney swings. It's a line drive, shallow center, falling quickly. Ward can't get there. It bloops down in front of him. 2 runs will come in. The throw to third is not in time. Adams slides in safely, and the Wings take a 2-0 lead on the Flair RBI single into center from Andrew Pinckney.